On today's episode of the franchise, today's Tuesday, January 24th. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Lakers making one of the first moves of the trade deadline, what it means for their chances of making the playoffs, and also, will they make any other moves this trade deadline? Going to go over some recent trades in Major League Baseball that just happened this past week. We're going to also go over Arte Moreno announcing he's not going to sell the Angels. So, as a passionate Angels fan, I'm going to have a lot of stuff to say about this announcement. And then finally, we'll give out my top 10 third basemen. We've done short, second, first, and the catcher position. We continue to work our way around the diamond. This episode's top 10 third baseman, probably the most stacked position in Major League Baseball. Before we get into that, as always, franchise available YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're going to start it off real quick. The Lakers making one of the first trades of the trade deadline. They're getting Rui Hachimura from the Washington Wizards. The Lakers are trading 3 second-round picks and Kendrick Nunn, who's done nothing for the Lakers in his time with the team. And they're getting a guy in Rui Hachimura, 9th pick in the 2019 NBA draft, out of Gonzaga, 6'8" forward. His stats on the season, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 48% from the field, shooting 33% from three. This move for the Lakers, you can see what they're trying to do. First of all, they're getting a 24-year-old player in Hachimura, who the Wizards have given up on. They didn't want to sign him to an extension this offseason. They didn't want to have to pay him, whatever kind of contract he's going to demand. They didn't want to give it to him. And the Lakers, a team that is very depth and talent deprived outside of their top 3 players in LeBron, Westbrook, and Anthony Davis. Outside of those guys, they have no depth and they have no young, promising talent. So this move is a few things. One of it, he's only 24. That's older for an NBA player, but it's still relatively young. He has a lot of potential to develop into the role that the Lakers need. And I think that's filling the void that Kyle Kuzma had. You look back a few years ago when Kuzma was still on the Lakers, especially the first few years with LeBron. Kuzma's the reason, Kuzma stayed with the Lakers because he balled out that first year with LeBron. And that's why he wasn't in the trade for Anthony Davis, because he was supposed to be this third piece to the puzzle with LeBron and Anthony Davis. And he played pretty solid in that championship run. Ultimately, they shipped him away to get Russell Westbrook. I think that was a very bad trade right there. They should have kept the pieces that they traded for Westbrook. The Westbrook trade hasn't worked out for the Lakers at all, clearly. But Hachimura is going to come in and try and fill the void that has been left by Kyle Kuzma, and he's still young enough that he can develop. Now, I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to drop 20-plus points a game throughout his career. And one thing is, people want to label him as a bust because he was a top 10 pick in the draft, and he's not putting up 20-plus points, a game throughout his career. I mean, in his career, he's a 13-point-per-game scorer. That is a solid NBA player. If he does 13 points per game for the next 10 years, he's going to be a solid role player and a guy that's going to get many contract opportunities. You look a few nights ago on the 21st against the Magic, he had a 30-point game. You go back 2 games before that against the Warriors, he had 16. And then he obviously had some games, 0 points, 9 points, 10 points. So he's a very up-and-down player, but, he just dropped 30 points, so he has the potential to take over a game. I don't expect him to do that with the Lakers, with them having LeBron and Anthony Davis getting primarily most of the shots on the team. But just because this guy was a 9th pick and he's putting up 13 points does not mean he's going to be a bust. I think he has the potential to be we're already seeing it. He could be a 13 to 15 points per game scorer and be a really nice role player. And if he can develop that 3-point shot, 33%, that's one of the higher 3-point percentage shooters on the Lakers. If he can improve that, maybe be a 35, 36, 37 3-point percentage shooter, he's going to have a really nice career, and he's going to be a nice piece for the Lakers. They didn't have to give up anything. They didn't give up Westbrook. They didn't give up their 2 first-round picks in 2027 or 29. So the Lakers still have the opportunity in a few weeks to make another move. With the Westbrook contract being expiring, $43 million, and then the 2 first-round picks, the Lakers can go out there and make a move. and get some sort of help with LeBron and AD to put this team into the playoffs. You look at where they're at right now in the Western Conference, they're not even in the playing game. And I mean, they need to be glad that there is a playing game, because where they are sitting right now, if there wasn't, they had no shot. They're the 12th seed in the Western Conference, 22-25, 11 games back of first place. They're not catching any of the top 5 teams in the conference. But they're a few games back of the play-in. And the Lakers' goal needs to be to make the play-in this season, because if they play, let's say they pass up Minnesota, and your 4 play-in teams are the Jazz, Suns, Lakers, and Warriors, you have the opportunity to beat any of those teams. Maybe the Warriors will probably be the toughest matchup because of their experience, having Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond Green. But if you're playing a team like the Suns, who this season have been disappointing, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and just the whole team as DeAndre Ayton not wanting to be there from the jump, the Suns team is not as good and not as unified and not as much team chemistry as there was last season and the year before. The Jazz are exceeding expectations, but they could easily be a team that sells at the deadline with Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson, Malik Beasley. They have a lot of guys that they could sell at the trade deadline. So if you're the Lakers, you need to make the play-in, and your goal needs to be to make the play-in, because you can beat any of those teams, and then you go into a playoff series against the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Kings. You never know what could happen. LeBron James in the playoffs is a completely different animal. And these teams, the Grizzlies and the Kings, they have very little playoff experience. So the Lakers, I still think there's a potential to make a move. We'll see if they end up doing so. I think now is a pretty good time to do so, because the Westbrook contract's expiring at the end of the year. You're going to let him leave for nothing, so trade him and the 2027, 2029 pick for whatever you can get. Right? I mean, the Pacers are good. Could you get Buddy Hield, Miles Turner? Could you talk to Toronto? Could you talk to Atlanta, Chicago? Could you go out and talk to the Phoenix Suns or the Blazers? Could you try and get Damian Lillard? That's crazy. That's far-fetched. But could you get Damian Lillard? The Lakers have a lot of potential moves to make, and I hope that they go out there and capitalize on the few assets that they have at this trade deadline. All right, moving on. The Twins and Marlins made a trade a few days ago. The Marlins have been trying to trade. The Marlins have some of the best pitching depth in Major League Baseball. For being one of the worst teams in the sport, their pitching is incredible. They have NL Cy Young, Sandy Alcantara. They had Pablo Lopez, Tyler Rogers, Sixto Sanchez, Edward Cabrera, Jesus Luzardo, top pitching prospect in their organization, Max Meyer. They just signed Johnny Cueto. The Marlins have a lot of pieces, a lot of nice young pitching, controllable starters in their system, but they have no offensive pieces. The Marlins this offseason and for the last few years, their goal has been to get a bat, get some pieces offensively to complement their amazing pitching staff. So the only way they could do that is trading one of their starters. They trade with the Twins. They're getting rid of Pablo Lopez. In return, they're getting Luis Arias from the Twins. I don't remember where exactly I ranked Arias in the first baseman rankings. I think he was somewhere between 10 and 6. I'd have to go back and double check that. But the Marlins get themselves a top, one of the best hitters in the game. I think he led led the American League last year in batting average. 316, 8 home runs, 375 on base, 420 slugging, 795 OPS, 4.4 WAR. And the thing for him is he can play many positions: first base, second base, third base, DH. So the Marlins pick up a nice offensive bat, and they're also going to move Jazz Chisholm to center field. He's an all-star second baseman. The thing with Jazz Chisholm, he's been very injury prone. He cannot stay on the field. So him moving to center field, I don't know how that's going to help his chances of staying healthy. I think center field's a more demanding position than second base on your body. You are the leader of the outfield. You are doing the most running, right, to get balls to your in left field and right field. And in those gaps, way more demanding than center field. But Jazz Chisholm is a very exciting player. But in terms of this trade, the Twins are getting Pablo Lopez, who last season 3.75 ERA in 180 innings pitched, 174 strikeouts, 1.16 whip, 3.71 FIP, 3.0 WAR on the season. Lopez is a very serviceable number 2, 3, or 4 starter in your rotation. He can be a solid number 2. He's going to be a great number 3 or number 4 in your rotation. For the Twins, a team that's been needing pitching, I think this move really helps them with guys like Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray, now adding Pablo Lopez and Tyler Mahle to their rotation. The Twins have a very nice pitching staff for a team that's been needing pitching for a few years now. And yeah, it's going to take giving up one of the best, hitters on your team to get a good pitcher. But pitching goes a long ways in the regular season, and if you're trying to make the postseason, having a guy like Pablo Lopez to lengthen that rotation for the Twins is going to help them. And I feel like offense is a lot easier to find than really solid starters who are just always going to be consistently on their A game. So some other prospects were in this trade. Nothing really to go over right now. I mean, we'll see how those guys pan out. They're both very young prospects in the trade, but I think this is an evenly matched trade for both teams. The Marlins improved their offense, and the Twins improved their pitching rotation, two things that both of those teams needed to do. The Red Sox today actually made a trade for Alberto Mondesi from the Royals. He's going to take over their shortstop duties with Bogarts leaving for the Padres and Trevor Story likely out for the whole season with Tommy John. Mondesi is one of the fastest players in the game. He can steal 20, 30, 40 bags a season. His defense is great. His offense has not been there throughout his career. Royals getting some prospects in return. All right, this is going to be a long section. I want to end it with the third baseman because this rant about the Angels is about to be crazy. Arte Moreno, a few months ago before the season ended, I think it was late September, early October, announced that he was going to look to sell the Angels. That was probably the best news the Angels have had all season. And especially as an Angels fan, I was like, oh my God. The day has finally came. The Angels are about to be under new ownership. We're about to finally strive towards a winning culture. We're about to get new uniforms, maybe new logo, maybe a new stadium, maybe just, it's going to be a whole new vibe around this Angels organization. So the whole offseason, it's been talks about this guy buying the team. The Warriors owner maybe buying the Angels. The guy who owns the LA Times maybe buying the Angels. Some random people from all around billionaire freaking row buying the Angels. And then yesterday, Monday, it's announced that Arte Moreno basically just said, nah, you know what? I want to own this team for the foreseeable future. That was probably the worst news I could have gotten as an Angels fan, sports fan yesterday. And a lot of fellow Angels fans agree. I don't think there's many fans of the Angels out there that like Arte Moreno as the owner. I know there's a few. I don't understand where those guys see the good in Arte Moreno as an owner. The Angels haven't won anything in 8 years. They haven't made the postseason since 2014. All right, Mike Trout's made the postseason once. He's played 3 postseason games in his career. Shohei Ohtani's never even tasted the postseason. He's never tasted a winning season as a member of the Angels. I pulled up all the receipts here. Since 2015, the Angels have had one season above 500. That was 2015 when they went 85 and 77, finished third place in the American League West. The following seasons, 74 wins, 80 wins, 80 wins, 72, 26 wins, COVID season, 26 and 34. 2021, 77 wins. Last year, 73 wins. Third place, fourth place, fourth place, fourth place, fourth place, second place, fourth place, third place. The Angels have made, they won the division, best record in Major League Baseball in 2014. Great year. You look before that, third place, second place, third place, first place, second, first. The Angels had a really good stretch from 2002 to 2009. Then there were some quiet years, 2010 to 2013. Make the playoffs in 2014 with Mike Trout, MVP, best player in the game. He's 20-something years old. Looking like it's going to be the future's ahead of the Angels. They're going to be one of the best teams going forward. And they have consistently done absolutely nothing. They have been one of the most disappointing teams, if not the most disappointing team, in professional sports, right? They have, before 2017, 2018, when the Angels signed Ohtani, you're looking at them having the best player on the planet and not making the postseason. And then they sign Ohtani, and they have the two best players in the world. All right, Ohtani right now is the best player in the game, and Trout is the second best player in the game. Flip-flop them, I don't care. They're the two best players in the game, tied for first, basically. You have the two best players in the game, and you haven't made the postseason. You haven't even won. You haven't even had a winning season with those two guys on the team. I took a look since 2015. These are the Angels' free agent signings. 2015, Cliff Pennington. 2016, Jesse Chavez, Yosmero Petit, Luis Valbuena, rest in peace, and Ben Revere. 2017, Zach Cozart. That is a horrible contract. 2018, Justin Bour, Cody Allen, Trevor Cahill, Peter Borges, Matt Harvey, Jonathan Lucroy. 2019, Julio Teheran, Anthony Rendon, Jason Castro. 2020, Jose Quintana. 2021, Archie Bradley, Jose Iglesias re-signed, Michael Lorenzen, Aaron Loop, Ryan Tepera, Noah Syndergaard. This past season is probably the best offseason they've had since 2015. At least at this point. We'll see how these guys pan out. Tyler Anderson, Hunter Renfroe, Gio Urshela, Brendan Drury. You look at some of the contracts that Arte Moreno's handed out as the owner of the Angels. Josh Hamilton, my least favorite player of all time. I hate Josh Hamilton. He's one of the few baseball players I hate. Him and Alex Rodriguez. Zach Cozart had one good season with the Cincinnati Reds where he was an all-star. Signs this deal with the Angels. Absolutely horrible. I don't think he ever played more than like 20 games for the Angels. He sucked, and he was injured. Albert Pujols, 10-year deal. The infamous, one of the worst contracts in baseball. C.J. Wilson and Justin Upton to that massive extension a few years after he was acquired from the Tigers. So under the reign of Arte Moreno since 2015, or since, Pujols signed in 2011. So since 2011, and then especially since 2015, with having a guy like Mike Trout and then now having a guy in Shohei Ohtani, the Angels have signed absolutely nobody to help their team, to help the Angels organization go towards the to go to the postseason when you have Mike Trout and now you have Shohei Ohtani, and even before then you had Trout and Pujols, and that was a nice duo. The Angels have done nothing, and for a majority of the time it's been on the pitching side. They have not addressed the pitching at all. Last season they had a top 10 team. Top 10 pitching staff in terms of ERA. The pitching for the Angels is looking better than it did in the past 10 years. All right, but since then, they have done absolutely nothing to address the pitching. And offensively, they've signed guys like Justin Bour and Jonathan Lucroy and Cliff Pennington, and just guys that are below average MLB players at the time of them signing. Matt Harvey was good when he was with the Mets before he got injured. Jonathan Lucroy hasn't been good since he was with the Milwaukee Brewers. Zach Cozart had one good season with the Cincinnati Reds where he was an all-star. Anthony Rendon, since he signed with the Angels, has played 110 games, 15 home runs, 261 average, 808 OPS. For a guy that you're paying 7 years, $250 million to, he hasn't even played a full season over 3 years. Obviously, one of the years, COVID, 60 games. But in the past 2 full seasons, Rendon hasn't even played a majority of the year. You look at the 3 years before that with the Nationals, 282 games, 58 home runs, 314 average. Finished MVP, 6th place, 11th place, 3rd place, was an all-star. Impactful on that Nationals World Series championship team. So since Rendon signed with the Angels, he's been, in these 110 games, he's been productive, he's been average, but he's not worth the $30+ million that he's making. Hamilton was horrible with the Angels. He did absolutely nothing. This guy was trash. Zach Cozart, like I said, was trash. Pujols was decent for like the first 3 to 4 years of the contract, then just fell off a cliff. C.J. Wilson was an overpay. Justin Upton was not good under contract with the Angels with that extension. So Arte Moreno coming back to the Angels is probably the worst thing that could have happened, because do we really expect him to change his philosophy around this team? Do we think he's going to stop being cheap and start handing out, you can't, I mean, you can say that he's not being cheap because he's handing out deals to Pujols and to Upton and to Rendon and to Trout. But he's handing out deals to the wrong people. I mean, he's not signing the right guys. Rendon, I hope he becomes a good signing. He has 4 years left on his deal. But he's going to be 30. He's already 32, 33 right now. 4 years left. Do we think he'll be, any better in 3 to 4 years? So Arte Moreno coming back, can you really expect change? Can you expect him to say, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to let the baseball people deal with the baseball operations. I'm going to allow them to actually make the moves that are going to benefit the roster. Am I going to be able to put a team on the field this year that's going to make the postseason? Because this is the only year, this is the most important year in the history of the Angels franchise in a very long time. Because Shohei Ohtani is in the last year of his deal and he's a free agent at the end of the season. And right now, I don't expect him to re-sign with the Angels. He should and most likely will test free agency in the offseason. They have not made the playoffs since he's been here. They've had losing seasons. They haven't finished above third place since he's been a member of the Angels. Why would he even consider re-signing? So the Angels, first of all, this season, we'll talk about this a little bit later on when we get to, I'm going to do a whole video just on the Angels 2023 season, what they need to do. For Arte Moreno, this guy is not even just baseball. The prices at Angel Stadium for a lot of the things are ridiculous compared to other ballparks. Just what he's done as an owner is not good during his tenure. He's been horrible. All right, he took over after they won the World Series, and since then, they had success the first few years with him, early 2000s. Since then, they've been horrible. Haven't even had a winning season since 2014, like I said. Will he be able to put a winning product on the field this season and in the foreseeable future? Because if you lose Ohtani, you still have Mike Trout, and you got to at least get Trout to the postseason. So can we trust Arte Moreno to do that? I don't think so. I think this is the worst thing to happen to the Angels. Him saying he's not gonna sell the team is the worst thing that could happen to them. Like, in the last 1,000,000 years, this is the worst thing that could have happened to the Angels. It's hard to be so negative about a team, when you have the two best players and you want to be optimistic. But yeah, I don't know. Arte Moreno sucks, and the Angels are probably not going to be good again this year with him on the team. All right, that's enough for the rant. Let's get to the top 10 third baseman. Heading into the 2023 season, this is the most stacked position, I feel, in Major League Baseball. The talent in this position, the top 6 players, you could really make an argument. They could all be the best third baseman in the game. And then the other 7, 8, 9, 10 guys, are really, really good players as well. But let's start it off. At number 10, I have Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays. This guy, 31 years old, his defense is not good. All right, third base probably has the best defensive players in the game. His defense is not good, but offensively, he is a great player. He's really similar to Luis Arias of the Marlins. Last season, 9 home runs, 296 average, 401 on base, 423 slugging, 824 OPS. He doesn't strike out. He doesn't swing and miss. He walks a lot. He hits the ball. He doesn't, chase a lot of pitches. He's a really, really good hitter. And, he's going to 10 home run kind of guy. But he gets on base, he drives in runs, and he hits for average. And he walks at a really, really nice rate. His offense outweighs his defense, right? His defense is among one of the worst in terms of third baseman. But his offense is really, really good. And for a Rays team, he's one of the best players on the Tampa Bay Rays. He comes in at number 10. Number 9, this guy's really underrated. He's only 25 years old, and he has a lot of potential. That is Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pittsburgh Pirates. This guy is quietly one of the best third basemen defensively in the game. In the 99th percentile, outs above average. 7 home runs last year, 244 average, 314 on base, 345 slugging. His offense, I hope, and I think the expectation is in the next few years it'll come around. I think this guy could be a 15 homer guy, 20 stolen bases, a 260 kind of average hitter. Right now, he's not scoring up the ball a lot. He is striking out at a pretty high clip. He's not walking a lot, but his defense is great, and he has potential, and he's shown flashes to be a really, really good hitter for years to come. And he's only 25 years old, and as the Pirates get better, I'd expect him to get a lot better as well. He's number 9. Number 8 is Matt Chapman. This guy's a great defender. 72nd percentile outs above average. Former Gold Glove winner with the A's last season, first year with the Blue Jays. 27 home runs, 229 average, 324 on base, 433 slugging, 757 OPS. Great arm, great glove. Doesn't chase a lot of pitches, does swing and miss, and strike out a lot. Walks at a decent clip. He's not going to hit for average, but he is going to be able to hit, near 30 home runs and play Gold Glove, pristine defense at the hot corner. Number 7 is Anthony Rendon. I know I mentioned him earlier. With his time with the Angels, he hasn't been playing like he's being paid. He hasn't been that productive. Last season, 5 home runs, 229 average. I think for him, you're going to have to look at his last 3 years with the Angels. And I don't like to use the what he could do, what he could be projections, but if he's on the field and he's healthy for a full year, you can't help but expect him to be a 20, 25 homer guy with elite defense at third base. So he's only here because of what he can be. I don't know. I know I said I don't like to do that, but I think with him and how good of a player he's been in his past, you kind of can expect him to be there. From these previous 4 guys to these next 6 guys, I think there's one of the biggest gaps in baseball. The gap is huge. Number 6 is Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox. This guy just signed a massive extension with them, and rightfully so. He's one of the best hitters in all of Major League Baseball, not just at third base, all of baseball. 27 home runs, 295 of average, 521 slugging last season. His defense is not good. He's not a good defender at that third base position. Long term, he'll be a DH or first baseman, but his offense is incredible. This guy hits the ball like no one else. He hits for average, and he hits 30-plus home runs a season, drives in runs, gets on base, hits the ball as hard as anyone else in the sport. He comes in at number 6. Entering the top 5 is Alex Bregman from the Houston Astros. What a bounce-back year for him this year compared to his 2021 and 2020 campaign. 23 home runs, 259 average, 366 on base, 454 slugging, Gold Glove defense at third base. Walks a lot, doesn't strike out a lot, doesn't swing and miss a lot, doesn't chase a lot of pitches, and evenly spreads the ball around the field for Alex Bregman. 28 years old, a part of the best team in Major League Baseball with the Houston Astros. He is an absolute baller. And his defense is among some of the best at the third base position. Is very underrated defender, in my opinion, as well. He comes in, number 5. Number 4, this guy has been a beast his last 2 seasons at third base for the Braves. That's Austin Riley. Defense, not a strong suit for him. You're looking at a future first baseman, designated hitter type of guy. But 38 home runs last season. The year before that, he was a near 35-plus homer guy. He could have won an MVP this year with the way he was playing at the plate. 93 RBIs, 273 average, 528 slugging, 877 OPS. He barrels the ball, and he absolutely hits it as hard as anybody else. This guy, almost a 40 home run guy, 25 years old. He hasn't even hit his prime. He's going to be a guy that's going to hit 40 home runs, I think, for the next 3 to 5 seasons with the Atlanta Braves. His defense, like I said, is not good, right? Compared to these other guys, his defense is not good, and you could say he could be a little bit lower. You could say Bregman could be ahead of him because of his defense. Bregman's defense is better than Riley's. But Austin Riley's offense is just freaking incredible. And this guy, I've had him on my fantasy baseball team, and just the way he produces, the way he helps out the course of the game and impacts the game, is like no other. He comes in at number 4. Top 3. Number 3 is Nolan Arenado. This guy finished 3rd place MVP voting last season. All right. He is an elite third baseman at the plate and defensively. 99th percentile, outs above average, Gold Glove winner, Platinum Glove winner, 30 home runs, 103 RBIs, 293 average, 533 slugging, 891 OPS, MVP third place finalist last season. One of the best offensive years of his career, especially since he left the Colorado Rockies. This guy's been the best. You could argue he's been the best defender at that third base position for the past 4 to 5 seasons in Major League Baseball. His arm is great. His glove is elite. He can make the hardest plays look routine, and he makes the routine plays look like something he could do with his eyes closed in his sleep. He doesn't strike out. He walks at a decent clip, and he hits the ball for average, and he hits the ball for power. He's at number 3. Number 2, I think this guy could have made the case he should have won MVP last season. This is Manny Machado from the San Diego Padres. Arguably one of the best defenders at that third base position, 95th percentile, outs above average, 32 home runs, 298 average, 531 slugging, 897 OPS last year for San Diego. I think he could have won MVP because he single-handedly carried the Padres to the postseason last year without Tatis, with Juan Soto not being productive, not being as productive as he's been with the Nationals, with the Padres. It was really a Manny Machado show on offense. This guy had many games where he could hit multi-homer games or big 3-run shots to put the Padres up and then seal the game for them, not only at the plate, but defensively. I think he's the face right now of the San Diego Padres, even though they have Tatis and Juan Soto and Xander Bogaerts. He's arguably the best player on that team. And defensively, you could make the case he's the best third baseman in the game. With his arm, he can make incredible plays. I mean, you look at some of the plays he's made in his past. Balls hit down the line, takes 5 steps into foul territory. Absolutely guns the guy at first base. His glove, like I said, is like no other. And offensively, one of the best players in the sport. I think he should have won MVP last season. But number 1, I think this guy is probably the most underrated player in the game of baseball. And that's Jose Ramirez, Cleveland Guardians. He's a freaking amazing hitter. 126 RBIs last season, 29 home runs, 20 stolen bases, 280 average, 355 on base, 514 slugging, 869 OPS. Defensively, really, really, really good third baseman. And offensively, this guy's probably the best hitter in all of Major League Baseball. And he's fast, too. You look at his build, and you just look at Jose Ramirez, you don't think he's going to be a guy that steals 20 bags and be one of the faster players in the sport. But he is. He doesn't strike out. He walks a lot. He doesn't swing and miss a lot. And he hits home runs. He hits for average. He drives in runs. I mean, he drove in 126 RBIs last season for Cleveland. I was able to watch this guy at one of the Padre games that I went to. He hit 2 home runs, literally both of them to the 2 rows next to me. I was sitting first row in the outfield. First one was like 3 sections to the right. Next one was like 2 sections to the left. He's an impactful player. He's the best player on the Guardians, best third baseman in the sport. I think he's a very, very underrated player. He's finished top 5 in MVP for basically almost every single season of his career. I'm pulling it up right now because I think it's a very large amount of his career. Last season, 4th place MVP. Before that, 6th. Before that, 2nd. He's finished 3rd, and 17th. This guy's a constant top 5 finisher in MVP voting. I think it's only a matter of time before he has a season where he finally gets the nod and is the MVP. But he comes in at number 1. Either of these top 3 guys, you can make the argument for being the best third baseman. And any of these top 6 guys, you can make an argument to be in the top 3. I think this is the deepest and best position in all of Major League Baseball. The talent here on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, is incredible. And if I was starting my own team, I don't know which one of these guys I'd pick to have, as my third baseman. All of these guys have their their pros and cons. I mean, Ramirez, switch hitter, amazing hitter, average power, great glove, fast. Machado, great arm, great glove, game changer at the plate. Arenado, same thing with him. Riley, great hitter, 40 homer power guy, not a great defender. I mean, all these guys are really, really, really great players. And that's my top 10 third baseman. Next episode, we start the outfield. We're going to classify each position, left, center, right. And then we'll get to the starting pitchers, relievers. And then after that, we'll do top 25, I think is what we're going to end up doing. Top 25 players in Major League Baseball. And then we'll start going through after that. Every single division, awards predictions. And then I think by then we'll be at opening day. Maybe, depending on how everything pans out. But that's going to do it for this episode of The Franchise. A little bit of a longer episode. As always, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We'll be back on Wednesday, tomorrow, with another episode. I'll see you guys later.